Since the dawn of time, man has been curious. And for almost as long, the Vibes Broadcast Network has sought the truth. Investigate, discuss, explore. Okay, maybe in other episodes, but this one is just listen to the vibes.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Listen to the Vibes. I'm very privileged to have Mr. Rob Reed with me today. He is a voice actor. He's a Longhorns fan, just like me. He has a major award.
Yeah, I do. A major award. You get the leg lamp. It's from Italy, and it's a major award. It's Fragile.
Well, Mr. Reed, thank you for joining me today. You know, I like for everybody to get to know who I'm talking to. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've been I guess I'm a professional voice actor now. That's what I've been living on for the last 3 years. After about 30 years in radio, so it's been a transition from the radio side to the voice actor side, which a lot of people tend to think that's a pretty natural, transformation, but it's not. It took a lot of work to get rid of some bad habits from being on the radio for 30 years to the point where you're actually voice acting, and so that's basically what I do all day long. Everything from I do a lot of car commercials, mainly trucks, and I also do a lot of radio imaging, which, if you don't know exactly what that is, that's the big voice that you hear in between songs that brands the radio station. And so those two genres primarily is what I do mostly, along with some other narration pieces, explainer videos and commercials of all kinds. So that's it in a nutshell.
You do documentaries?
I've done a couple of them, and I would really like to do some more work in that line. It's very tough, and you have to be connected to the right agents and producers in order to get in the door. Now, once you're in the door with somebody like the Discovery Channel or National Geographic, then you become an approved voice for them, and they reach out on a regular basis. So still trying to connect the dots as far as documentaries go, but yeah, I would love to be doing more of that.
Have you ever thought about maybe doing animation or anything like that?
Well, yeah, I have a little bit, and that goes along with video games too. With animation, of course, COVID-19 has changed a lot of the way we record different projects, but for the most part, if you're doing animation, you pretty much have to be in LA. Video games is a little bit different. A lot of that stuff gets done in Dallas, and we do have some producers here in Austin too, but the animation stuff is I'm just not a great character voice for the most part. I did get the pleasure of doing one of those early on in my voiceover career. Was a pilot for an animated show that kind of never got any legs. But who knows? Someday it may get picked up by some network, and it may grow. They tend to do that sometimes.
Exactly. How did you get into all this?
Actually, through a radio buddy. We had worked together about 10 years before that, and he really started being successful in Las Vegas, and he was still working in radio at the time, and he called me and he said, dude, you got to get into the voice acting world. And I played around with it for about a year, and then I got serious, and it's turned into a lifestyle. Very passionate about what I do, and you're always working. It's not like a 9-to-5 gig. There may be an email that goes off tonight, and they say I need 3 truck commercials by tomorrow morning, and that's just the nature of the beast. So it's good to be working.
Oh, no kidding. Especially nowadays, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But it's got to be exciting. I mean, even though you're behind the scenes and your face is not up front for all this, it's still, how does it feel?
Yeah, it's well, it's the I think going back to the radio time, one of the things I always loved about radio and production for the most part was taking a raw piece of copy that's on a sheet of paper, and then you create basically the theater of the mind, um, with the writing and the production, and I think a lot of that carries over to the voiceover world. It's a pretty competitive place, a pretty competitive world, but one of the great things about it is most of the people that are involved in it are very caring and giving to one another. It's not really as cutthroat as you might think. And so that part of it is great too. Um, One of the other interesting aspects is we do a lot of work remotely. So I connect via the internet to producers maybe in Chicago or Denver or Minneapolis or wherever they might be, and they can direct me and record me over the internet in a studio quality setting, which makes it pretty interesting too. So that's a little different than I thought it would be in the very beginning.
Well, from what I see, you got a pretty good setup there.
Yeah, it's I've spent the last 6 or 7 years slowly building those things up, and I was fortunate enough to have a good radio job at the end of my radio career, and I really didn't need the voiceover money to live on, so I was able to take that and build my studio and kind of do things the right way with websites and agents and things like that. So I was blessed and very lucky in that regard. The other thing about voice acting is of course, there are a lot of people in the voiceover world that have great voices, but it's really not about the voice. It's about portraying the believability of your role, whether you're in a commercial or you're in a piece of animation. Being a believable character doesn't really have anything to do with the sound of your voice, and that's one of the great things that we have found. In fact, a couple of my favorite people in the industry sound like little bitty kids when they talk, and they're full grown adults. But the fact that they have this very unique voice lets them portray a completely different character. I had other friends who specialized in having that very caring voice, very caring delivery. Right when we saw all of the brands and the commercials, uh, we got so sick and tired of hearing in this unprecedented time or in these challenging times. It was the same message from every company over and over again. And I think, we as consumers of media got a little bit worn out with that, and it lost its effectiveness because we felt at that point, then we kind of felt like people were talking at us instead of to us, which
Yeah.
is always one of the things that you want to be able to do, especially in commercial voiceover. So for me, it's continuing to audition every day. I do somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 15 auditions a day, and of course, most of those are all top secret when they come out, but they're everything from commercials for what came up the other day. All of a sudden, now I'm drawing a blank. Um, I want to say it was a Procter and Gamble product was one of the things that came up, and you audition for all of those things, along with many other voice actors along the way, and so auditions kind of turn into your job. You also do paid work at the same time, hopefully, and then when one of those auditions hits, then it's that's a good thing. So that's the other part of the job that makes it exciting, though, because you're constantly working on things that first of all you have to keep secret, in many instances, we have to sign a non-disclosure agreement, and we can't talk about it for a certain time. Then other times, they want us as voice actors to talk about it so that we kind of spread the word on our social media channels. Sometimes that's a good thing. And then there are other times when they don't want that at all. It just kind of depends on the campaign or the project or whatever the case is. And then, when you do get a chance to see it or hear it, it's always a treat to be able to share that with, whoever on Facebook or Twitter, LinkedIn, wherever you kind of run your business from. So,
Right.
yeah.
So has there been anything really oddball that you've had to do for advertising?
As far as voices go, I guess one of the most interesting things that I did was I played, well, two things. I've done some slot machines, which are always kind of fun. So you get a sheet of the different things that they want you to say, and then those are of course programmed in when they hit a jackpot or they hit a bonus zone or whatever. Those are fun. Also got to do the voice of a I think they're called Roombas, the vacuum cleaners that go through the hardwood floors. So I was they hired me to be the voice of the tech problem. So if there was a code, whatever the code was, I would have to read the code, and then I would give the command and say, here's what you need to do. And then I guess that speaks. I think it was the Ninja, the Room Ninja or the Shark Ninja, something along those lines. But it was actually produced in Poland, is where the company was that was producing it, that sent it back. And that's the other interesting thing, man. A lot of the stuff that we do gets produced overseas, and you would think that they'll do things in other languages, but they a lot of the time they want an English speaking actor to narrate or do whatever on those projects. So that's kind of cool too. So you have to reach out globally with a lot of your marketing efforts and outreach. Well, it's been a blast. I've really enjoyed the time, and it's always great to meet new folks.
Well, Mr. Reed, thank you so much for your time, man.
Yeah, thank you. I had a blast. If can I get my website punched in
Yes, I
here?
was going to say, tell people how they can get a hold of you and check you out and all that kind of stuff.
On all the social media, most of it's Rob Reed VO, and then my website is robreedvo.com. And if you've got a project that you'd like to kick around, and I'm networked with a bunch of other voice actors as well, so sometimes I do some casting for people too. So reach out and say hi. Love to talk to you.
Well, Mr. Reed, thank you again for joining us, and thank y'all for joining us.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen to the Vibes. You can catch us on Buzzsprout or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, and on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at The Vibes Broadcast Network